morning. Thank you for tuning in. You are tuned in to The Encourager, and my name is Nehru. Happy Monday, as I am recording this on a Monday, and hope you're doing well. It is December 4th. Good morning to you if you are a Sagittarius celebrating a birthday. I normally don't do that or say that, but I will probably moving forward for each sign in season. But yeah, if you're a Sagittarius, I am. If you're a Sagittarius, happy birthday to you. Happy holidays. Hopefully you enjoyed your Thanksgiving time and you didn't spend too much last weekend on Black Friday. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing well today. And I hope you're loving yourself. I presented a small but yet extremely key and foundational challenge for us yesterday, and that is to love ourselves. So first of all, I hope you're loving yourself this morning. I hope you looked in the mirror today. You look in the mirror when you're not driving down the street, or at least not for too long, other than to check blind spots and things, right? But, if you're at a light, look in your interior rearview mirror, right? Look into your eyes and remind yourself that you are loved and you are priceless and you are invaluable, and this place needs your skills, your abilities, your anointings, your gifts, your voice, your actions, your philanthropy, your giving, your heart, your true heart, your highest, purest, truest form of yourself. We need that. We all need that, okay? Whether we actually ever meet you or not, because we are an entire collective. We are one whole collective, okay? So, again, a drop of water in a lake affects the ocean, and in every other body of water. So yes, that it's connected to. So, so again, I hope you're loving yourself and you're showing yourself that love, and whatever expression that might be. Again, if it's things that you haven't done in a while, maybe a vacation you're wanting to go, staycation you're wanting to go just to get away, whatever that might be, I'm encouraging you to do that, to show yourself some self-love this week, right? So that's the 7-day challenge, is to show yourself some extra self-love this week, okay? Again, I hope your day is off to a good start, and it is good, I hope, wherever you are, whenever you hear this. So I want to talk about spiritual gifts today, and spiritual talents and abilities. And I say spiritual in front of all of those things because we can all gain talents, gifts, and abilities once we get here. Okay, you can go to school. Today you can go online and take courses, right? There's YouTube. YouTube alone is a university all unto itself. One day they might change it to YouTube University. But YouTube is a university, or have another platform for that or something. But YouTube is you could learn how to build a house just from watching YouTube videos. Right? And an entire house, know how to dig, lay the piping in the ground, whatever, plumbing and all that. You can learn all of that right there on YouTube, and you could save literally 6 figures from going to school for that, right? So there's with the advent of the internet and all of that being so global now, there's so many resources available to us there. So you can gain natural wisdom or wisdom once you arrive here, right? So there are some people who are born with an amazing singing voice, right? They just are. Think of there's so many, right? A Whitney Houston, a voice that's so unique, it's kind of like a once in a generation voice, okay? And not kind of, she's a once in a generation voice, okay? Unfortunately for her, she got hooked up with karmic people in the entertainment industry, as is often the case, and could never get rid of whatever drug addictions and things that she was dealing with, because she was keeping herself surrounded by the karmic as their name starts, first name starts with a B, last name starts with a B, people who really did not have her best interest at heart. Okay? And so we're born with gifts, talents, and abilities, right? And we can also garner those as we move along in this 3D world. But I want to talk about the ones that we're birthed with, because the ones that we garner or embrace once we're here, those are a little more difficult to speak on specifically, okay? Because those are based on preferences, and we all have preferences, and that's something that I've been thinking about recently. We all have preferences, so it doesn't matter what it is. We all have preferences for the type of car that we like. Historically, I've liked luxury cars, it's been Mercedes and Audi, and then when I was younger, still trying in my late teens and early 20s, me still trying to emulate the sperm donor in some way. I grew up with Lincolns and the large Cadillacs, and he had all those cars, right? And he had multiple cars. He's had over 100 cars. I've had, I want to say like 29 or something like that. But he's had well over 100 cars, okay? And he had 5 and 6 cars at a time at one point in time when we lived in Illinois. And so I grew up around that, going to car shows and all of that at the McCormick Center in Chicago, and I love that. I love that. Even still today, I enjoy going to classic car shows. I still do. And so, but then obviously as time goes on, cars begin to change in that. And the cost to keep one of those vehicles on the road, when you're getting 10 miles to the gallon, you could go buy a Hummer. So we all have preferences. But now, I'm probably going to change that with whatever vehicle I get. Whatever the next vehicle is that I get is probably going to be something that's out of the norm for me. So again, but we all have preferences. We have preferences for everything. The shoes we wear, the brands that we like, even down to the colors of the paint that we pick. We all have preferences. We have preferences for everything. Okay? Some of those preferences are good and serve a purpose. So for instance, I have a preference that whoever I am joined to in marriage, whoever that's to be, and I have been married twice. Both of those lasted less than 3 years. One due to infidelity, and the other due to lack of support. And so I know today, me knowing who I am and being fully in my purpose, I know for a fact that whoever I marry has to be either where I am, or they need to be close and on their way to getting to where I am. Okay? And if they might be spiritually more advanced than I am, then I would need to step up my game. Okay? So there are some preferences that should not be waived, should not be, standard, that should not be lowered. Okay? So with your spiritual gifts and abilities, so I was born a healer. Okay? And I was born an empath. Okay? So getting comfortable with yourself, your authentic self, is the very first step in utilizing and confirming your spiritual gifts. No one else needs to, again, qualify you, quantify you. No one else needs to. You do not need a quality control manager for your own life. You are your quality control manager. Okay? You might get advice from others. You might, and I do that, right? I listen to things, but I do not allow someone to tell me what to do. They can only offer advice. They can only offer options. They can't tell me. No human being on this planet today can tell me what to do. They can't, because I have free will. Okay? The government can't even tell you you have to pay taxes. You don't. Because the truth of the matter is there are ways to get around paying taxes that are not tax evasion. It's tax avoidance. Okay? So you can set up trusts, right? You can put your car in a trust and hide it from the government. And right? You could put your house in a trust. You could put your business, your companies in a trust. Okay? And so if you put that trust, I don't know why I'm sharing this. If you put that trust with I just had the name. You can do irrevocable trusts and revocable trusts, obviously family trust, dynasty trust. There's all sorts of things you could do with that. With those situations to, again, right, avoid tax. So even the government telling you that you have to pay taxes, that's not true. And certainly you don't have to pay the percentages that they say you do, right? So, and again, I'm not advocating for tax evasion. That's illegal. I'm talking about tax avoidance, okay? Tax avoidance is what Jeff Bezos does. Tax avoidance is what Steve Jobs does or did. Tax avoidance is what Bill Gates does. Tax avoidance is what Ross Perot did. Tax avoidance is what pick somebody, right? That is how the Rothschilds, that is how these families, the Rockefellers, that is how these individuals are able to keep their wealth. Okay? So I was born a healer. I was born an empath. So being comfortable with yourself. So I'm going to share, as I typically do, my own challenges with accepting who I was, or who I am, what they were, and today, no one can talk me out of who I am. Okay? No one can talk me out of who I am. And no one should ever be able to talk you out of who you truly are. Okay? So once you find out who you truly are in whatever aspect of your life, no one should ever be able to talk you out of that. No, you don't need to go to school for. You should probably go to school for. No, I'm not going to school for that. Why? Because I know that's not my. But you can make a lot of money. I don't care. That's not my focus. That's not my number one priority. Okay? We need that to be sustained here. And so people who say that money doesn't buy happiness, they're actually lying to you, because money can afford you to be happy in a whole lot of nice places. So money does buy happiness. If I paid your mortgage for a year, if I paid your rent for a year, you trying to tell me you would frown at that? You would sadly be disappointed in me paying your mortgage for a year? Man is a bunch of bullshit, and all that the dumbass sayings that man has, it just keeps us in low vibration. That's all it does. Okay? That's all it does. So, happiness, you can provide yourself more happiness with the amount of money you have. What money doesn't do is money doesn't bring joy. And this is why multimillionaires, this is why actors, actresses, when they make it big and we think, wow, man, and then you find out they unalive themselves and we're shocked, because money doesn't bring joy, because that's an internal thing. Man has a counterfeit for every spiritual thing. Man has a counterfeit for every spiritual truth. Okay? So, we need to focus on the joy when we say that, rather than the happiness, because money has provided a lot of happiness. Okay? Money affords someone to avoid sleeping outside in the cold or in the heat, in the rain, and provides them covering, and they can provide themselves a comfortable place to sleep, right? Money does that. Are you trying to tell me you'd be just as happy sleeping on a park bench in the snow as you would sleeping in a warm house? No. Money does buy happiness. So stop saying that. Stop believing that. That's hindering your money flow. Okay. Um, so yes, so for me, these are some things that I noticed when I was a kid, that, or at least maybe not all of them as a kid, but I definitely knew at some point I started to see what I'm going to share, some things that I started to experience in that. So right away, the first thing is dreaming. I have always been a dreamer. Always. Always. Since I was a kid. I remember having dreams. I could tell you dreams that I had. I could tell you the repeat dreams that I had. That I have. Or I've had. I haven't had any repeat dreams in a long time, which is a good thing because I suspect that means I'm progressing, you know, continuously. Okay. But for a while, I would have repeat dreams, and I'm sure that was because I was stuck in some sort of cycle. And this is going back to like more than 10 years for sure, where I would just have these repeat dreams. And it was maybe two repeat dreams. All right, so I've always been a dreamer. Okay, sometimes my dreams point me to something that is happening in the 3D. So, for instance, when I was a kid, I had a lot of dreams about fighting the man who I grew up calling my dad. Okay, and these dreams would be fights. They would literally be fist fights, and he wasn't fighting back, but I was smashing his face in, right? And so when the dream would start, I'd already be wailing on him. I was a fighter when I was a kid, and I'm a fighter by spirit. But growing up, I don't think my parents knew. Yesterday I posted a video about Proverbs 22:6, and I think I'm going to make a part 2 to that. But it's train up the child in the ways and wisdoms and will of the Father, so that when they are old, they do not depart from it. They do not depart from his wisdom, his will. Okay? And so I don't know. I know in part he knew who I was, because that's why he's been doing witchcraft against me since I was a kid. But obviously he did not know to the depth of which, because Most High would not expose all of that information to him. And he was gathering his information through witchcraft, and witchcraft is of the enemy. And he's definitely not going to get all the information he wants to know about anyone through that means. And that's for anyone who does witchcraft against anyone. And witchcraft is anything that's done with outside of unconditional love. So if you're looking at somebody side-eyed, or you're looking at somebody angry, or you're hating on someone, you're doing witchcraft against them. Okay? If you're not unconditionally loving yourself, if you speak ill against yourself, if you, I hate you, you screwed up again, right? If you're doing that to yourself, you are doing witchcraft against yourself. Okay? Because you are going against your higher self, your spirit man, because your spirit man is always truth, cannot tell a lie, just like Most High. So when you say those things, Most High would never say those things about you. You are doing witchcraft against yourself. That is the enemy using you against you. Okay? So I remember having these dreams. I'd wake up apologizing all the time because I've always had unconditional love. So I was born with unconditional love. I forgive easily. It's difficult for me to hold a grudge. And I don't hold a grudge against the sperm donor. He took my wife and daughter. I don't hold a grudge against him. I don't hold a grudge against my mother, who mistreated my brother and allowed all these medical issues to occur in him when he was an infant, before he was even a year old. I don't hold those things against her today. I've forgiven her a long time ago, forgave him a long time ago, forgave the former wife a long time ago, forgave the daughter for not wanting anything to do with me a long time ago, forgave, in fact, that's both of them, a long time ago. And I understand that who I am is difficult for some to grasp, especially for one daughter. I came into her life when she was like 12. Okay? That's difficult to do. She's already very much established in her personality, her thoughts, and all sorts of things, right? because it's scientifically proven that up to the age of 5, children are, or approximately 5, they function much in an imaginary place, and that's a good place to be, is an imaginary place, because that is where manifestation comes from. Earl Nightingale speaks about this, about the imagination, okay, in his books that he wrote in the 1930s and 20s or 30s, but I think it's actually 1950s, maybe in 60s or something, that his audio teachings in that were being published. But yes, Earl Nightingale, look up his information. But he talks a lot about the imagination and how the imagination is the key to manifesting whatever it is that you desire. So when I am in meditation, that is what I'm doing. I am in an imaginary place, in an imaginary state, okay? And allowing things to flow, and at the same time releasing things, okay? So for me it was dreams. Also, I noticed at some point, I don't know when I noticed this. I don't know when I noticed this, but I noticed at times, and I know this is a spiritual thing, and I know I'm not the only one who experiences any of these things. So if you do, feel free to share, or if you experience other, or you know of other spiritual gifts that you have, that you've had from birth, or that you recognize today. So I remember, I might get a little weird on you. So, I don't know when this started, but I remember one day at some point in this lifetime, realizing that I could see vapors. And when I say vapors, I mean like if I stand still and I look, like, and just kind of like pause myself and literally stand still with my senses, I could literally see vapors all around. And it's like hovering white light clouds. It's like emanating, right, all around us. I can see that. Okay. Many of us see orbs, right? They're like little lights, right, that we see from time to time, right? That's, to me, that's not a gift or an ability, but to me that's something similar to how I see those vapors, and I don't know how to explain that. I can just see that hovering, whatever that is. I could just see that, whatever that is. Okay. If you when sunlight, so sunlight's coming through the window now, right? So sunlight, if there's smoke in the house, sunlight's coming through, and it could be smoke from a candle, smoke from a cigarette, smoke from whatever, right? If sun's coming through, you can see the smoke like hovering on the rays of the sun, right? That's kind of how I see that vapor, and it's moving, right? And it's all around. It's not just around me. It's like the air, but I don't know how to explain that. So, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that points to my spiritual vision, or I don't know what that points to, but that is something that I've known for a long time, and I know that's something spiritual. Okay. I've known for a long time that where my root chakra is, and it's located at your tailbone, or the end of your vertebrae, right? I've noticed that often if I ask Most High something, or no, not if I ask something, because He answers most often verbally, or you know what I mean. I hear His hear his response. But I've noticed that depending on the environment I'm in, I get a tingling, right? Somewhere around there, right? I get a tingling around there. And that alerts me to be aware of something, right? But again, in order to recognize that, I know I have to be still. I have to be paying attention to myself. Okay? Because if I'm too involved in the 3D, then I don't recognize it, and that has happened plenty of times. Okay? I am a scribe. I am a writer. Okay, perhaps you are a writer, you are an author, you might be a producer, you might be a lyricist, you might be a musician. Okay, I can't say I was born with any musical instrument talent, but I have gathered that since I've been here. Right, I know I never took any drum lessons or anything like that, and I played the drums for the sperm donors churches, and even in the military for a while I played drums for one of the churches, at one of the military installations where I was stationed, and so that might be considered a gift. I never took a talent, I never took anything for it, meaning lessons or anything, and so perhaps you have that ability. And again, think about those things that come naturally to you. So I am an artist, okay? And I don't mean artist like a fool in the way that man means it. I don't sell my art. I don't do any of that. But I am a painter, and I paint, okay? Oils and acrylics, okay? I never took a class for that. To me, that's a gift and an anointing, okay? When I first started posting videos earlier this year, I would use some of those paintings as the background to what I was saying. The lion one is the only one of those types of videos where there's a still painting and I did not paint it. I did replicate that lion, but that particular picture is not one of them. The other ones are some of the paintings that I've done. And I just used those as background as I was sharing whatever I was sharing. When I left Florida, I gave all of that out. I put it all on the curb, along with everything else in the house, other than my dog and a suitcase of clothes, and left Florida. So I'll be back at that one day. So I am creative in that way. I am a scribe. I am a writer, and I write a lot, whether it's journals, in my journals. I am, and so I am an author. I have written a book. Well, it's not a book. It's really more like a story. But that story is My Father, Your King, and that's available on Amazon Kindle and Goodreads.com. My Father, Your King, and it's really just the story of the polygamous father that I wasn't raised by, but was my guardian for for a period of time, so it goes over his life. Okay, so that's one of the things that Most High has given me to share with the world here. So that's just one more thing. So what does that look like for you? What are your gifts, your talents, your abilities? Okay, so there was definitely a time when I would not tell someone that I see vapors or I see I see sometimes what are the simple, real simple organisms? I am not a scientist. What are the organisms? They're like really like the very basic, not atoms, but I want to. It's not an amoeba. That's not what that is it? I don't know what that is. But anyway, from time to time, also, and it's really kind of like looking through my eye, I can see whatever those organisms are in the air, whatever those are. And again, I want to say amoebas. I don't want to stop the video to go look that up or pause it. But yeah, whatever those are, I'll look those up and maybe share exactly what that is at some point in time. So, what are your gifts, talents, and abilities that you know you had but you're shy about? Okay. One thing for me, I know for sure, is I'm called to be out front and I'm called to lead. Okay. But I am not I lead when opportunity presents itself. I am not an over eager leader. Try to say that 5 times. Over eager leader. I am not that. Okay. So often I sit in the background until I'm needed, and I prefer it that way because then that keeps my ego in check. Okay. I remember in Florida, the only jury trial I've had, I think I've mentioned this, the only jury trial I've had or ever been a part of was was a murder case. The perpetrator's name is Patrick Campbell, and it happened in Edgewater, Florida. He killed his grandmother because unalived his grandmother. I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, YouTube. I forgot I was on YouTube for a second. So he unalived his grandmother because his parents, now he suffered from schizophrenia and he was taking medication. He refused to take it because he didn't like the way it made him feel. So he decided that he was going to go and break into his grandmother's house because they were, his grandmother was managing his money because he was irresponsible with it, okay? Because he was getting, I think, state benefits of some sort because of his medical condition, okay? Or maybe it was some type of Social Security or something like that he was getting. And so his mother and his grandmother were managing his money because they knew how irresponsible he was. His mother left, didn't want any part of him. She dismissed him, okay, and left him in Florida and went to live in like North Carolina or something like that. He went up there with her for a couple of months. She kicked him out, and that's when he came back down here and took his grandmother's life, right? And after he did that, he literally went down around to the pubs and bars and stuff like that, places that he had worked in Edgewater, Florida, and like sat there, had a meal, talked to people, right, whatever, right? He literally did that. And the neighbor across the street has a video camera and literally sees him drive past the house, check the house. She wasn't there, comes back hours later. She's there, goes outside, or he knocks on the door, picks up a rock, goes inside, hits her with it. Like you literally see the first swing in the doorway through this camera across the street. Now, evildoers, it's really tough to get away with crime today. Evildoers, it's really tough to get away with crime today. They are solving cases that are 50 years old with DNA technology, with what's the I was gonna say Argonne Laboratories, but that's that's definitely not it. I'm trying to think of with all the crime shows and things that I watch. Yeah, with these places that have these the DNA technology to now go back, and they could use ancestry to find out who the perpetrator was. It's difficult and more difficult to get away with crime today, evildoers. Okay, so, but anyway, so that gentleman's name is Patrick Campbell, and during that time, when I received the jury summons, I didn't mind. I'm a servant. right? I served 8 years in the military. I did that voluntarily. Why? Because I don't know. I think a good man lays down his life for his fellow man, and in some way, I just believe that. I just believe that, I don't know, there's something to that. If you volunteer to die for a stranger, it takes a different heart to do that. And so, as always, thank you, men and women who have served honorably. And so, yeah, but with that, they had to pick a jury foreman. So, the judge is going through jury selection. He's asking all these questions, and I'm standing up. Yeah. What do you do for a living? Because they ask you that. They ask you your occupation. I'm an accountant. And they ask you, other questions. I don't remember all those questions, right? And so, of course, I was one selected because they want, generally, if it's not rigged, they want highly educated people with confirmation. They want highly educated people with I don't know, a certain wherewithal, I guess. I don't know what they're looking for. But in picking the jury foreman, we're sitting there in the room deliberating when we first get in there. And sitting there like everybody else, and they're like, why don't you? How about you? Why me? What did I do? I didn't say anything. I did nothing. But that's how leadership has always come to me. Okay? In the military, 2 weeks into basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, the drill sergeant selected me to be the platoon sergeant for the next 6 weeks of basic training. Okay? I've always been selected for leadership positions. Not because I went after them. Right? So there's something to that for me. Okay? And so yes, so whatever you're the 3D world, it does reveal to you what your gifts are. It does try to paint a picture for us. If we do not kick against the goads, it really does try to paint a picture for us about the way that we should go. The things that are yea and things that are nay. Right? And so, whatever your spiritual gifts are, your abilities, we first need to be comfortable with them, and only then can we share them with the world. Because if I was not comfortable in talking about the extraterrestrial side of me, if I wasn't comfortable with talking about me being an earth angel, if I wasn't okay talking about, I don't know, I'm thinking about, who's the sex doctor? Dr. Ruth? Is that her name? If she wasn't comfortable talking about those things, she would not be able to do that. I think that was her name. I don't even remember. Right? She would not be able to do that. She would not have been able to do that. So you must be comfortable, first of all, with the gifts and talents that you have, that Most High has given you, and be grateful for them, regardless of how the journeys they take you on, because often the gifts and talents aren't the abilities, it's the application of them. So we can all use our gifts, talents, and abilities for good or evil. Okay? So, if you're a musician, you're a singer, you can use your lyrical skills, your vocal, your throat chakra. You can use that to uplift people or to demean people, to hate or to love. Okay? With your vocal cords, you can release words that do that. Okay? You can release words that heal, and you can release words that hurt. Confirmation, dog barking twice. Yeah. So let's get comfortable with what our gifts are. Sit down and do a self-evaluation and be honest with yourself. Okay? Because you have to be authentic. Again, all goes back to being authentic and loving yourself first. If you don't do that first, nothing else, not the love yourself week, this week that we're having, and look in the mirror and say, we love you, I love you. Okay? Look at when we fail to do the foundational work, the structure is going to crumble, right? We know that. Okay? The three little pigs taught us that. When we fail to do the foundational work, the structure is going to crumble. We are told that in biblical scripture about the men who built their house here, and then we have the parable of the sowers and the talents, right? One was given one was given two, one was given this, right? What did you do with those? What did you do with those gifts, talents, and abilities in the time that you had them? Did you multiply them? Did you hold on to them so tight that you suffocated them, and because you were afraid of losing them, so you weren't able to share them with the world? Or did you just frivolously just live recklessly, right? And so as a musician, you had orgies all the time, right? And you OD'd on drugs, and that person's coming back for another lifetime because they have karmic debt that they need to clear up, right? And oftentimes, especially in entertainment, that is what ends up happening. Okay? But that wasn't the route for the gift. That gift wasn't supposed to take them down that route. Again, we can all leave the world a better place through unconditional love, or we can build atomic bombs with our spiritual gifts. There is no doubt that the man I grew up calling my dad, he's an extremely, extremely brilliant person. I don't think you can run a polygamous cult for 30-something years and not be brilliant. I don't believe that. With 17 kids, and who knows how many women over that time, I do not believe you can do that, escape and evade law enforcement for all that time without being extremely smart. So he has a bachelor's degree in child psychology, right? So he has the tools of the trade to do exceptionally well, or to do what he did. So he has a bachelor's degree in child psychology, a master's degree in religious philosophy, right? So he knows how to use scripture to manipulate individuals, and he knows how to control kids because he understands how kids think, and he understands the spiritual side of things, although he looks at them through warped glasses. Okay? So that's what he chose to do with his gifts, talents, and abilities. That punk is definitely coming back for another round. Probably a couple of them. Yeah. Because if he doesn't, he's going straight to purgatory. Sliding down the fucking razor blade into some alcohol. That's what his life would be spiritually if he was not offered another opportunity to come back here, to correct his wrongs. So we all have an opportunity with our gifts, our talents, and our abilities to do something exceptional. And again, that's spiritual gifts and natural gifts, the gifts that you gain or talents that you gain here, okay? The things that you gain are not gifts, okay? In the natural sense, from a spiritual perspective, those are talents and abilities. So yes, consider that today as you love on yourself. Give yourself some extra love. Consider your gifts, your talents, your abilities, and how they can be better used to help man become better versions of themselves and higher, purer, truer versions of ourselves. And I will need you to share that with me, okay? Because, again, being oneness, I do have a left arm, right? But I also need my right arm. And I'm glad I have my right arm, okay? Right? Because even though they're both arms, they don't do things the same, right? So most of us are not ambidextrous. Okay? I can't bat from both sides of the plate. I'm not like that. Okay? I can't throw very well with my left hand, and it looks kind of funny. right? As it does with most of us, right? So even though they may look the same, right? They don't function exactly the same. And that's true for each of us. I'm not the only healer, right? You're not the only spiritual lyricist, right? But it's a oneness. And I can gain from you and you can gain from me. Okay? So, as you go about your day to day, think about these things. Consider what's been given to us and how we can go about using those things to better man and help them get out of the matrix of their mind and their focus to shift it towards the truth. And the truth is not the 3D and the matrix. It's an illusion. It's a dream, essentially. Okay? And so, anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. You've been tuned into The Encourager. Again, my name's Nehru. If you're wanting to get in touch with me privately, you can do so via email at theencourager333@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I hope you're enjoying your day whenever you're listening to this. And as always, be encouraged. Talk to you soon.